Yes, Mr. Minister.
Thank you. You can hear me, Mr. Ridsdale?
Yes, I can hear you, and I can see you now. You can't hear me?
Try again.
I can't. Can you hear me?
No, we can just hear you. Someone's going to have to adjust the volume. Can you speak again?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes. Can we turn the volume up more?
Can you hear me now?
That's better. Thank you, Mr. Ridsdale. Now, before the adjournment, you were giving evidence about your time at Inglewood Parish, where you were parish priest. Now, the circumstances in which you left Inglewood Parish are set out in the interview you did in 1994. Can you look at page 26 of that interview for me?
Yes, I've just been reading that.
Now, you describe about a third of the way down what happened. Can I ask you to read that from Yes? What happened there?
Yes, what happened there was a lady came to me one morning after the morning mass, and she said there is talk around the town that you've been interfering with the boys. She came to me one morning after the morning mass, and she said there is talk around the packed up a few things, and then probably about midnight, and I making inquiries. So I panicked, packed up a few things there, and went straight down to the bishop.
And that's Bishop Mulcairn's.
Yes, it would have been Bishop Mulcairn's. And that fills in a gap because I could never remember what I did. I knew that in Inglewood I panicked, but then I couldn't remember anything after that. I thought I must have gone down to Ballarat to my parents' home, but that fills in a bit of a gap there for me.
So it was the case that you told the bishop that someone had come to you saying that you had been interfering with boys?
Yes, I would have told him that.
The bishop that someone had come to you saying that you had been interfering with
boys? I must have had quite a few interviews with Bishop Mulcairn's, but there's only ever one that I can remember.
What was that one?
That was the one when I had applied for laicization to have my priesthood taken away, and it was when I had to go to his office and he had the document from Rome and he translated it for me and I signed it.
We'll come to your laicization, Mr. Ridsdale. Just coming back to page 26, which is in front of you.
Yes.
You say that the bishop arranged straight away for you to come down to Melbourne for counselling. That's right?
Yes, that's fair.
And the policeman that you told the bishop about was a policeman who was the father of a child who came to see you. Is that right?
I don't know about that. No, I think there, in the next paragraph, I think it says he wasn't the local copper. He was one from Bendigo.
That police officer from Bendigo was a police officer who happened to be a father of a boy that you had offended against.
I didn't know that. Well, I don't remember that now.
Well, you see a bit further down on that page, it was put to you that knowing the size of Inglewood, that the interviewer thought it would be imprudent to molest the police. Knowing the size of Inglewood, that the interviewer thought it would be imprudent done, and then just read out for us what you say thereafter. And you then say, well, one of them was with the policeman's son. And then just read out for us what you say thereafter.
Well, one of them was with the policeman's son, and when you say imprudent, it's taking an alcoholic and saying, call into that hotel and get a bottle of lemonade. There's no logic to it.
So you said it is like talking to an alcoholic, to the interviewer.
Now, looking back on it, and what I know now is that sexual offending against children and logic or reasoning don't go together. Perhaps that's what I meant.
Is that something that you have learned since you have been treated while in prison for sexual offending?
Yes, it is.
You didn't know about it before you went to prison and underwent that treatment?
Well, I didn't think about it. I wouldn't have thought about connecting logic and sexual offending. They were like two different worlds.
But the first person or people to draw that connection for you were the counsellors in prison.
Well, counsellors somewhere.
Well, just
could have been in prison, yes.
Turn over to page 28.
Yes.
After you went to see Bishop Mulcairns, he sent you off to counselling with a person you believe to be Peter Evans, who was a Franciscan priest at Laverna. That's right?
Oh, yes, yes.
And that was in Kew in Melbourne?
Yes.
What did you understand Bishop Mulcairns expected from the counselling he sent you to with Peter Evans?
I don't know what he expected, possibly certainly a cure or a healing or a bettering of my situation and my outlook.
Did you have a discussion with him about the purpose of sending you for counselling?
With whom?
Bishop Mulcairns.
No, I don't know whether I did or not. I can't even remember that interview where he sent me down to Peter Evans.
But you accept he did send you down to Peter Evans?
Oh, yes, it's here in my original statement.
So what did you understand then to be the purpose of you going to see Peter Evans?
Well, I expected it would have been to stop help me to stop offending.
Because Bishop Mulcairns knew you had been offending against children, didn't he?
Well, that was the whole point of the previous page, and my going from Inglewood down to see him and tell him that there was trouble.
Well, you told...
The previous page, and my going from Inglewood down to see him and tell him that there was trouble.
Well, you told him that you had been offending against children, didn't you?
Well, I don't know, but I would have had to. That would have had to have been part of it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent me for counselling.
That was the first time, to your recollection, that a person in the church had sent you for counselling?
Yes.
You'd taken yourself off to Warrnambool Hospital a few years earlier, hadn't you?
Well, yes, I had. I don't remember that, but I must have taken myself off. But that was evidently concerned with some kind of a breakdown that I was having or mental difficulties.
Now, just that you had a couple of sessions with Peter Evans, And from your recollection, it was simply relaxation technique stuff.
Yeah, I'm just reading here the simply relaxation stuff.
Do you remember now going to see Peter Evans and what he did with you?
I remember going there, but I'm not sure of what kind of treatment. I do know that I was disappointed because I might have only had 1 or 2 or 3 sessions with him, and then when I went for an appointment, they told him that he'd left, he'd gone away. I think he went away and got married, actually.
You say at middle of page 28 that he began relaxation exercises with you. Do you see that in the middle of the page?
Yes, I see that, yes.
Did he do anything more than relaxation exercises with you?
I don't know, miss, I can't remember. I can't even remember any discussion with him.
Now, Peter Evans has told the police that he did not see you in a professional sense for counselling. Now, is that your understanding of what happened with him, that you were not seeing him or he was not seeing you professionally for counselling? Is that your understanding of what happened with him, that you were not seeing him or he was not seeing you relaxation exercises?
I don't know. I can remember the relaxation exercises.
You don't remember him having discussions with you about your offending and why you were offending?
No, I can't remember any of our discussion that anything we talked about. I can remember going there, but that's it.
He also told the police that the Catholic Church had a house of prayer that most priests would attend at one time or another, and that area was known as Laverna, Laverna, and was not a formal treatment centre. Now, is that the place that Bishop Mulkern sent you to, Laverna?
Yeah, that's what I've got here. Peter Evans, a Franciscan at Laverna, and I stayed there for about a week, but I don't remember staying there. I thought it was just a day trip down and back, but I'm confused now because it looks like that I did stay there for a week.
It was more of
That's just lost.
I beg your pardon, Mr.
That's just lost there. Pardon?
What's just lost?
That the memory, I'm confused there now about what happened.
Do you remember that the place you were at was not a formal treatment centre? It was more like a drop-in centre?
No, I didn't know what it was.
Was there anyone else present at the centre when you were there?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
No, I don't remember seeing anybody else there.
Now, I'd like you to turn to tab 83 of the bundle in front of you. Can I ask you to accept, Mr. Ridsdale, that this is an interview that was held with Bishop Mulkerns by people similar to those who interviewed you? Will you accept that?
The insurance people.
Yes, or their lawyers.
Well, I've got no reason to disbelieve it. I haven't seen it before.
You'll see that it was an interview that was held on the 14th of April 1993, and Bishop Mulkerns was asked for a history of your service to the diocese.
Right.
Now, if you proceed down that page, Bishop Mulcairns is recorded as saying that the first complaint he ever had was when you were at Inglewood in 1975, and he describes the complaint as being that a policeman came to see him to say that he was worried about an incident with his son, that is, the policeman's son, and that in addition you came to see Bishop Mulcairns too, and that Bishop Mulcairns said to the policeman that he would pull you straight out of the parish and have him seek counselling. Now, just stopping there, was it the case that you didn't go back to Inglewood as parish priest after you had arrived at the bishop's house and told him about the complaint?
Well, it seems so. As far as I remember, I didn't go back to Inglewood.
Did Bishop Mulcairns say to you when you told him about the complaint that you won't be going back to that parish?
Well, he may have, but I don't remember that. I mean, that's logical to think that he wouldn't have sent me back, so perhaps that's what he said.
Well, you wouldn't have wanted to go back, would you?
No.
There might have been people after you when you went back, if you went back.
That's right. Yes.
And you would have been concerned that the police might make inquiries about your conduct?
Yes, well, they evidently had already done so.
And that those inquiries might result in charges?
Yes.
Because what you had been doing in Inglewood was committing crimes. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Did you tell Bishop Mulcairns that you had been committing crimes in Inglewood?
Well, I don't know what I told him, but I must have told him that that's why the police were investigating.
Because what you were doing was criminal. Isn't that right, Mr. Ridsdale?
Yes, as far as I know, yes, yes.
Now, Mr. Bishop Mulcairns...
I don't know what I thought. I don't know what I thought then, but I know that now.
Well, you knew at the time it was a crime, didn't you?
Well, I must have known, yes. I can't put myself back into that time and know exactly what I was thinking.
If you didn't think it
But
was
I would
a
have
crime...
known it was wrong. I would have known it was a crime.
You would have known it was a crime?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, should have anyway.
Well, you did know it was a crime because otherwise you wouldn't have been concerned about the police, would you, Mr. Ridsdale?
Exactly that, yes, exactly. I would have known it was a crime.
Just coming back to Bishop Mulcairns, he says, and you have that document in front of you, he said that he would have you seek counselling, and we'll come back to that, and that the policeman being the father of a child, was satisfied with that, that is, you'd be out of the parish and seek counselling, and did not want to take it any further because the incident was not a serious one. Now, did Bishop Mulcairns tell you that the policeman, that is the person making the complaint, was satisfied that you were out of the parish and being counselled and didn't want to take it any further?
I don't know. I don't even remember that interview, so I don't know what was said.
You knew the complaint was a serious one, didn't you?
I did.
And you conveyed to Bishop Mulcairns that the complaint against you was serious.
Well, I told him what it was, yes.
You don't now remember what it was.
I would have had to have told him that.
By that you mean that it was serious?
That what I'd been doing.
Well, you wouldn't have left Inglewood in the middle of the night unless you had engaged in conduct which resulted in a serious complaint, would you?
No, that's what I've said.
And you would have told Bishop Mulcairns that the reason you were there seeing him was that there had been or expected to be a serious complaint.
Yes, I've said that.
Bishop Mulcairns said that he knew it was a sexually related complaint, but the policeman didn't go to any detail, but Bishop Mulcairns understood it was inappropriate behaviour, but not very serious. Did you use any language like inappropriate behaviour when you spoke to Bishop Mulcairns?
Oh, I wouldn't. No, I've already told you that I can't remember that interview at all, so I have no idea what I would have said.
But at the time...
I can't look back in hindsight. I can't look back in hindsight and say, well, there, that's what I should have said from what I know now.
At the time, you didn't consider what you were doing with children as merely inappropriate behaviour, did you?
I don't know what I thought about it.
You knew it was more serious.
I knew it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. It was morally wrong, and it was legally wrong.
Now, after the time you spent with Peter Evans, did Bishop Mulcairns send you to any other counselling?
No, I don't think that. What time frame are you looking at? Straight after I left Peter Evans?
Yes.
No. What year are we looking at?
We're talking about 1975.
No, I don't think he sent me anywhere. Oh, is that when I went to Augustine Watson?
No, that was much later. Well, unless you're saying that you did go to Augustine Watson straight away. Do you remember that?
I'm not sure when I started with Augustine Watson.
Did Bishop Mulcairn tell you that you should keep quiet about having been to see Bishop Peter Evans?
No, I don't think so.
Did Peter Evans tell you that you should keep quiet about having seen him?
I don't know. I don't imagine he would. I just don't know.
Now, the next appointment you were given was an appointment to Bungaree. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember being in Bungaree. It was only for a short time, I think.
When you were appointed to Bungaree, did Bishop Mulcairns say what you were to do in Bungaree? For example, not to be involved with children?
No.
Say what you were to do in Bungaree? For example, not to be involved with children on your working at Bungaree?
No, I can't.
Do you remember saying to Bishop Mulcairns that Peter Evans said that you were able to go into a parish?
No, I don't.
Did Peter Evans tell you after your sessions with him that he thought you were able to go into a parish?
No, I don't remember that, and that doesn't make sense to me.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Well, you're asking me things about the discussion with Bishop Mulcairns, and I can't even remember being at the discussion.
I understand you're saying that, Mr. Ridsdale, but it may be that you gained some recollection during the course of my asking you questions. Now,
no, I'm getting information, but no recollection, no memories.
well, can I...
I accept the information that I'm being given as being true, but it's not bringing back any actual memories of that time or what happened.
Can you turn to tab 106 in the bundle before you? Now, can I ask you to accept that this is another interview with Bishop Mulcairns, this time in April 1994? And if you can turn over
An
to
interview, yes.
you can turn over to page 3. Firstly, turn to page 2, if you would, Mr. Ridsdale.
Right.
Do you see in the second paragraph, Bishop Mulcairns is talking about the complaint he received about you in Inglewood, and that he was sending you for counselling.
Yes, I see that.
And then the next paragraph, he said that you were undergoing counselling regularly. Now, after you were sent for counselling, you saw Peter Evans on 2 or 3 occasions?
Yes, that's my recollection of it.
And you didn't see anyone after you saw him on those 2 or 3 occasions?
No, I don't think so.
So you were not in regular...
Except the next one I remember was Augustine Watson.
So after you left Inglewood and while you were at Bungaree, you were not engaged in any regular counselling?
No, I don't think so. Not that I can remember.
Turn to the next page, page 3. Now, at the bottom of that page, Bishop Mulcairns is recorded as saying that the supervision of the counsellor to whom you referred, that is Peter Evans, was ongoing and that continued through, and Ridsdale, that's you, maintained it was very helpful to him. Now, do you remember saying to Bishop Mulcairns that you found the counselling by Peter Evans helpful to you?
No, I don't. I may have, but I don't remember it at all.
Did you think it was helpful to you?
I don't know. At the time, I was hoping it would be, I suppose.
Was it the case that 3 sessions back then were sufficient for you to feel that it was helpful?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, honestly. I don't know what I thought.
Now, you're at Bungaree Parish for about 6 weeks.
Right. I knew it was a short time.
Did you apply to go somewhere else after Bungaree?
I don't remember.
Your next parish after Bungaree was at Edenhope?
Yeah. Sometimes I can't remember whether I was sent anywhere or whether I applied to go anywhere. Just can't remember that. Sent anywhere or whether I applied to go anywhere. Just can't remember that.
On the consulters about whether you were ready to go into a parish?
Well, I don't know. I may have, but I don't remember any of them.
You were first appointed as an administrator at Edenhope Parish.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but no, I didn't know that, but yes, if that's the case.
You knew, didn't you, that a consequence of being an administrator was that you didn't have any tenure at the parish?
Yeah, that's the usual condition, yes.
Were you told that you were on some sort of probation or parole by being appointed as the administrator at Eden Hope?
No, I don't know about that.
No one told you that you were on some sort of parole?
No, not that I know of.
Did you understand that there were any restrictions on how you should operate as an administrator at Eden Hope Parish?
No, I don't even remember that I was administrator.
Well, were there any restrictions or conditions placed on how you should be as a parish priest at Eden Hope?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
While you were an administrator, you offended against children, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, at Eden Hope I did.
And at that time, you had stopped receiving counselling by Peter Evans?
Well, I would have by then, yes.
Did you tell Bishop Mulcairns when you were appointed to Eden Hope that you were no longer receiving counselling?
No, I don't know what I would have told Bishop Mulcairns.
Do you think it likely that having had 3 sessions of counselling and being told that the counsellor was no longer available, that you would have said to Bishop Mulcairns, the counsellor's not available anymore, is there anyone else I should see?
Well, I think I would have told him that Peter Evans wasn't available. I don't know, honestly, I just don't know.
Did you tell anyone in the diocese or the parish of Eden Hope about your offending at that time?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I would have.
And you offended in a way that resulted in convictions against you while at Eden Hope?
Yes.
You also offended against children when those offences were not the subject of charges. Isn't that right?
I don't understand what you said then.
You offended against children at Eden Hope, didn't you?
Yes.
Some of those offences you were charged with and convicted of.
Yes.
But some other conduct of yours with children was never the subject of charges.
I didn't know that.
Are you able to tell the Royal Commission that every child you offended against in Eden Hope subsequently was the foundation for a charge that resulted in a conviction? Subsequently was the foundation.
I don't know how many. I can't remember how many.
Now, in 1978, you told the Consultors Committee. Now, in 1978, you... Remember that?
I know I was on the Salary Review Board, yes.
What did the Salary Review Board do?
It was concerned with retirement, dealing with retired priests' payments, dealing with medical insurance, health insurance for the priests, and also with an attempt at making sure that priests in poorer parishes received a decent salary.
Was the position on the Salary Review Board one that carried with it some power and sense of achievement for you as a priest?
Yes, I was secretary.
I beg your pardon?
I was the secretary, as far as I remember, for quite a few years.
And to be appointed as a secretary of that committee, show, did it, that you were held in esteem by those who appointed you?
Well, yes, I don't know how I was appointed or how I got onto the committee, but very often becoming secretary is a matter of no one else is willing to do it.
At the same time that you asked the consultants for approval to be on that board, you foreshadowed that you had a possible interest in a more central parish in the January moves. Do you remember asking?
I can't remember how I got onto the committee or who invited me or whether I applied. I thought I would have been asked if I was interested in being on it.
As well as being on the committee, you foreshadowed to the consultants that you, as well as being on the committee, you foreshadowed as the parish priest. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember it.
In September 1979, the consultants met again to consider you and others, and at that consultants meeting, the minutes of which are behind tab 15, Mr. Ridsdale, have a look at that. And it's on the second page. And about halfway down,
Right.
it said that you had applied for study leave in 1980 and you wanted to resign as the parish priest of Edenhope, and on your return wanted a more central parish. Now, just stopping there.
Yes.
Why
Yes.
did you want to leave Edenhope?
I don't know now why I wanted to leave Edenhope. I wanted to do a year of study.
Were there rumours about your conduct with children at Edenhope?
I don't know, and I didn't know of any that I can remember.
Did anyone make a complaint to you about your conduct at Edenhope?
No, I don't think so.
No one raised with you any concerns about your conduct at Edenhope?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Why did you want a more central parish?
Well, it goes on to say there that I was spiritual director of the Catholic Women's League, which entailed a lot of travelling around the diocese, and from one of the more distant one of the parishes on the periphery of the diocese, it made it more difficult to get around to the whole diocese. That
Now,
would have been simply logistics.
you told the insurance people why you wanted to take a year off, and that can be found at 107, which is the interview you. And if you can look at page 37 for me, Mr. Ridsdale. Have you got page
Yes.
37?
Yes. I see that now.
Can you read that paragraph at the
I
top
took-
of the page?
Yes, I took a year off, and one of the reasons I took a year off was I knew my life was all screwed up, and I appreciated, or I thought that I had worked out for myself that part of my problem was that I couldn't mix comfortably and relate comfortably with adults. So I thought if I could go to some kind of a program or course and spend a year, a live-in year with adults, I might be able to sort of help myself that way. But it was only partially successful. A live-in year with adults, I might be able to sort of help myself that way, but it was only partially successful.
Had it affect your offending against children?
No, I don't think so.
You'd worked it out for
I
yourself.
don't remember anyone suggesting that.
So you worked that out
But
for
I knew
yourself.
I knew I was uncomfortable with adults and couldn't relate very well to adults. And then I thought perhaps that was just, I was falling back on relating with or trying to relate with children.
How did you connect your offending against children with being uncomfortable with adults and not being able to relate well with adults?
Oh, I don't know. I can know that looking back from where I am now that there was probably a lot of fear in mixing with adults because of the secret that I held, the secret of offending, and perhaps frightened of being questioned by them or I don't know really. It was also concerned with control, I think, control and power, and
You
I
had
was a
control
control freak and I couldn't control adults.
Well, you had power over and control of children, didn't you, as a parish priest?
Yes.
And you
Yes.
didn't have control of and power over adults in the same way, did you?
Well, I did in a certain way because I was manipulative and could often get my own way in things that I wanted for the parish.
You manipulated parents in order to get access to their children, didn't you?
Yes.
And you manipulated circumstances within a parish so you could be alone with children, didn't you?
Yes, I would have done that. Yes.
And part of your manipulation was to take children away from their families and away from the presbytery.
Yes, sometimes on holidays.
On holidays and camping trips,
Yes.
and sometimes in the guise of saying to their parents, I'll help you by taking your son away.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, there were some single parents in the parishes, weren't there? And you would say to some of these single parents that I'll help you out in looking after your child by taking him away overnight or for a weekend and the like.
No, I've got no reason to think that, or I don't remember that anyway.
But nevertheless, that's what happened, isn't it? You took children away overnight or for a weekend away from their parents and offended against them.
Yes.
You offended while you were at the National Institute, the National
Yes.
Pastoral Institute, where you went for a year to study, didn't you?
Yes.
while you were at that institute, you tried to bring up your problem of offending with Father Brian Gray. Do you remember that?
I remember wanting to talk to Father Brian Gray. I think he was a psychologist who came in to do some sessions, and I wanted to talk to him. I asked him one day if I could talk with him about my life, and from memory I think the response I got was, "No, I'm too busy."
Did you have the opportunity of telling him what it was you wanted to talk about?
No. Well, if I had the opportunity, I didn't take it.
Did you approach anyone else at the institute other than Brian Gray?
No.
Did you seek out any other form of help or counselling while you're at the National Pastoral Institute?
No, I don't think so.
What did you think that you could have gained from talking to Brian Gray at that time?
I don't know. I don't know really.
What were you looking for?
Well, I think the whole purpose of the year was to just try to turn my life around, away from offending with children to becoming more comfortable with adults. And if I could do that, then I thought it might eliminate the offending. But I had no idea then, as I do now, that logic and threats, they're no help to a paedophile. The only way out of it is proper treatment.
And you discovered that while you were in prison with the treatment you received in prison?
No, I discovered it when I was overseas on the sex offenders course.
This is in the late 80s when you went to a treatment centre in New Mexico?
Yes.
We'll come to that. Now, after the National Pastoral Institute, you were appointed to Mortlake Parish.
Right.
Did you put up your hand for Mortlake Parish?
I don't know whether it became vacant and I asked for it, or whether I was offered it.
Were there any conditions imposed on you by Bishop Mulcairns as to how you should conduct yourself at Mortlake Parish?
No, I've never, to my memory, I've never had any restrictions or conditions put on me.
Now, your account of what happened at Mortlake is at page 39 of your transcript, which is in front of you. Have you got page 39?
I have, yes.
Can you read from the second line of that page for me?
Yes, I got out of control again. I went haywire there. Altar boys mainly. They came over to the presbytery. It was no secret around Mortlake eventually about me and my behaviour. There was talk all around the place amongst the children and one lot of parents came to me.
Now, if you turn over to page 40,
Yes,
you refer to one particular family who came to you. Do you see that there?
I see that, yes.
And you say that you talked about your offending against their children with them, and you thought you parted with them on fairly friendly terms and that they would handle it in the family. You see that there?
Yes, I don't remember any of this.
When you say that it was no secret around Mortlake eventually about you and your behaviour, a number of people came to talk to you about your offending against children?
No, I don't think so, I don't know. But I don't know why I said that.
Well, one lot of parents came to see you.
Yes.
How did you hear about the talk around Mortlake about your offending?
I don't know, that statement is new to me.
Well, you then say on page 40 that the first time I knew there were problems was when I think Hank called. Now, just stopping there, Hank was Henry Nolan. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
And Henry Nolan was the Vicar General at that time?
Yes, he could have been. I think he was Vicar General.
Now, can you read from that paragraph down, beginning the first time that I knew?
The first time that I knew there were problems was when I think it was Hank called in one day that the bishop had asked him to call and say there were rumours and people were talking and people were going to the bishop. But there was one particular family who were all in favour of me staying there. They said they think we can handle all this stuff in the community, and I'll just read it as it is, and they in fact got me in the car and took me out to the bishop and sat there and talked to him about that kind of thing, and he said, oh no, he has to go, he can't stay in the parish.
Did that conversation happen with you present with the bishop?
I don't remember that at all.
The bishop at the time was Bishop Mulcairns, wasn't it?
It would have been. I don't remember anything in that paragraph.
Well, Mr. Ridsdale, let me take you to other people's accounts as to what happened in Mortlake, starting first with Brian Finnegan. Now, Brian Finnegan was the bishop's secretary at the time. Do you remember him being the bishop's secretary?
Yes, I remember Brian being there.
You'd known him for some time, hadn't you?
I would have known because he was a priest of the diocese, and in a small diocese we get to know most of the priests.
And he'd been at parishes you'd been staying at over the years, hadn't he?
Working with him.
I beg your pardon?
Working in the parishes with him.
Yes, you were in Warrnambool together, weren't you?
Well, I didn't know that.
Now, if you can have a look at tab 84. Now, you'll see from the first page of tab 84 that it's an interview with Father Brian Finnegan.
Right.
And he says in his first answer that his first appointment was at Warrnambool, and his memory was that you were at Warrnambool at the same stage.
Right, well, I don't remember Brian being there.
Now, if you can turn over to page 7. He's asked questions about Mortlake and says about a third of the way down that he was the bishop's secretary when you were at Mortlake.
Right.
Do you remember him being the bishop's secretary?
I remember him being a bishop's secretary, yes.
And he said that people came to him to, well, sort of complain. 3 or 4 people came to see him and they were disturbed by your behaviour, that's you, Mr. Ridsdale, in that you used to invite all these lads around to your place to play pool, and that these people thought that you were over-friendly to them. Now, just stopping there, while you're at Mortlake, you did have all these lads around playing pool at your place, didn't you?
Yes.
And you'd set up a room where there was a pool table and various games to encourage the children to come over to the presbytery.
Yes, I had a pool table there.
And the purpose of the pool table was to encourage children to come to the presbytery, wasn't it?
Yes.
And you abused some of the children who came to the presbytery to play pool, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Now, coming back to Mr. Finnegan, he says that he confronted you, this is while you were in Mortlake. Now, stopping there, you were recorded as saying earlier that there was talk about you at Mortlake. This is an occasion, according to Mr. Finnegan, where he came to you to tell you about complaints he had had. Do you remember him coming to you, telling you about complaints he had had?
No, I can't remember Brian coming to me.
Do you remember anyone confronting you in Mortlake other than the parents you've referred to?
No, any of the parishioners?
Anyone?
No, I don't think I can.
You see that Mr. Finnegan said that your response to him confronting you about the complaints, that you were most crestfallen, and that you said, I thought I was going along very well. You see that?
Yeah, I see that.
Does that help you recall the discussion?
No, it doesn't.
Did you think at Mortlake you were going along very well?
I don't know. I must have if I said that.
But you were offending while you were at Mortlake, weren't you?
But that wouldn't have been the truth. If I said that, it certainly wasn't the truth.
And you may well have said that and said it knowing it wasn't the truth to the Bishop's Secretary.
Yes. Yes.
Now, let me take you to another person's account of what happened at Mortlake. And this is Fiscalini, Leo Fiscalini, who was the Vicar General at the diocese at another time from Finnegan. Now, if you can look at tab 92, there's a heading there, Monsignor Leo Fiscalini.
Yes.
Now, you'd known him for some time by this stage, hadn't you?
That's right, because he was the parish priest of Warrnambool.
And he was the one you wanted to get away with by leaving Warrnambool, wasn't he?
Yes.
You didn't like working with him?
No.
Now, Monsignor Fiscalini towards the bottom of the page, said that he was visited at the diocesan offices by a fellow in Mortlake, and he may well have been accompanied by his wife, and he said that these people were very distressed about a sexual molestation of their son at Mortlake by you. Now, Monsignor Fiscalini then says he reported that to Bishop Mulcairns and you were immediately removed from Mortlake. Now, stopping there, did Bishop Mulcairns tell you about a complaint received by Monsignor Fiscalini?
No, he must have, but I can't remember it.
Did Monsignor Fiscalini tell you that he had received a complaint by parents?
No, I don't know. I can't remember talking with Monsignor Fiscalini about anything like that.
Now, can I ask you to look at another person's account of what happened in Mortlake? And this is Sister Vag. This is tab 91. If you can get that in front of you, Mr. Ridsdale. Now, you remember that Sister Patricia Vag was one of the Sisters of Mercy, and she was in Mortlake in 1981 and 1982 when you were there.
Yes.
You remember Sister Vag, don't you?
I don't remember her being there. I don't remember which nuns were there, but I do know and I remember Sister Vag because we've corresponded on and off over the years while I've been in jail.
Now she was the superior of the convent or the order at the time you were in Mortlake. Does that help you recall her?
No, I know who she is, but I can't remember her being there at Mortlake.
When you said you corresponded on and off over the years you were in jail, did you initiate that correspondence or did she?
I don't know now. I'm trying to think. I have an idea we worked together or went to some program together in Sydney about new ideas in parish organisation or something, and we corresponded since then.
So she corresponded with you after you'd been convicted and while you're in jail?
Yes.
The Sisters of Mercy ran the school in Mortlake. And
Yeah, they did.
And the principal of the school was Sister Kate McGrath. Do you remember her?
Oh yes, I remember Kate.
Well, just coming to this interview with Sister Vag that's behind tab 91 in front of you, Sister Vag was asked about your association with male youth at the in front of you. Sister Vag was asked about your association. I remember he certainly liked children and often would take them out to go on holidays. He would take children with him to Whitecliffs. Now, stopping there, Whitecliffs was a property you had?
Whitecliffs is a little opal mining town in New South Wales.
You had somewhere to live at Whitecliffs, didn't you?
I had an underground house, a dugout.
Now, going back to Sister Vag, she said that you would take children to Whitecliffs, and you did do that, didn't you?
Yes, I used to do that.
And she refers to Sister McGrath, the principal of the school, and she said that Sister McGrath would sometimes say, I get annoyed with him because he seems to get the children to go to the presbytery during playtime. Now, this is during playtime while they're at school. Now, is that something that you did? Got the children
No,
to
I
come?
could have.
You could have?
Yes, I could have done that.
That's one way of gaining access to the children, isn't it, Mr. Ridsdale?
Yes.
Through
Yes,
the school,
yes.
knowing when the children were out of school and enticing them to the presbytery. That's right?
Yeah, yes, yes.
She refers in the second last answer on that page to a lad from Melbourne who used to come up and stay. Now, when you were at Mortlake, you had a lad from Melbourne staying with you at the presbytery, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
How did you meet that lad?
I think it was I don't know how I got to meet him, but it was when I was at the National Pastoral Institute. Would have got to know his family in some way, I think.
You joined a Big Brother group, didn't you, when you were at the National Pastoral Institute? With the Big
No.
Brother group having as their membership men who befriended children who didn't have fathers.
No, I've never heard of that.
Just turn over the page in front of you, Mr. Ridsdale. You see there, Sister Vag says that you told her that you joined a Big Brother group, which was men who befriended children who didn't have fathers.
No, I've never heard of that.
Nevertheless, you befriended this boy who was about 11, 12 or 13. Is that right?
Yes,
And he stayed with you at the presbytery during school holidays?
at Mortlake.
Yes.
Yes,
And did he sleep in your room, Mr. Ridsdale?
yes.
Who else was living in the presbytery at Mortlake when you were there?
There wouldn't be anybody else.
You were living by yourself, were you?
Yes.
There was a housekeeper?
There was no live-in housekeeper.
There was a housekeeper who came and went to do the various chores.
Yes.
How many bedrooms did you have in the presbytery?
Oh, two, I think.
During the time that the boy was living with you at the presbytery, did you have visitors to the presbytery who saw the living arrangements?
Well, there could have been. Anybody who came visiting could have seen the arrangements.
You didn't hide it.
Hide what?
The living arrangements.
No.
You knew that what you were doing with that boy was a crime.
Yes.
Now, turning down the page of Sister Vag's interview, she refers to talking to Kate, the principal of the school, and saying, "Do you know what people are saying? That is, this is happening, Jerry is molesting children." And Sister Vag said, "Oh no, that can't be right." But Kate, the principal, Sister Kate said, "Oh, I think it is right. Some of the parents have come to me." And one particular family came to her. Now, did you know that people were going to Sister Vag or Sister Kate?
No, I didn't.
Just turn over the page of Sister Vag's interview. And do you see on page, which has 0185 at the top of it, Mr. Ridsdale?
185. Yes.
And Sister Vag is recorded as saying, it came out while I was there, and I rang the bishop and said, "Listen, this seems to be true." This being that you were molesting boys, and in particular the boy in the presbytery. And she says that Bishop Mulkern said, "Probably is." And she said to him, "Well, you'd better come and do something about it." She says that Bishop Mulkern said, "Well, I can't come immediately. I have confirmation here and here and here," and gave the phone numbers of the places and said, "Well, ring me if you need to." Sister Vag said that Bishop Mulkern said to her, "Go and tell Jerry, and that might stop him at the moment." Now, Sister Vag says she did speak to you. Do you remember Sister Vag speaking to you when you were at Mortlake?
No, not about the offending.
She said that she said to you, "Listen, this is what they're saying about you." And she said you replied, "That was in my past years ago. I would have thought people would leave your past alone." Now, does that help you remember the discussion with Sister Vag?
No help at all.
If Sister Vag had confronted you about complaints, you wouldn't have told her the truth, would you?
No. That's all part of the pedophile thing, is the deceit, hiding things, cover up.
And that's what you were doing when people approached you in Morton.
That's what I was doing all the time, all my life.
Now, I want to take you to the account of Sister McGrath. Now, Sister McGrath's account is behind tab 96. Now at page 2, at the bottom of page 2, Sister Kate said that she wasn't aware of anything going on, that is, you offending against children, until lunchtime one day when one of the parents came to see her and wanted to see her in the office. And she said that the parent said to her, "Was I aware that the parish priest, that is you, was molesting half the boys in the school?" Now that was true, wasn't it? You were molesting at least half the boys in the school.
No, I would disagree with half the boys in school. I don't know how many boys were in the school, but...
You molested any boy you could get access to in that school, didn't you?
I molested boys, yes.
Well, any boy that you could get access to. Isn't that right, Mr. Ridsdale?
I don't know about that.
Well,
Because I would have had access to other children that I wouldn't have molested.
she refers to you taking children from the playground to the presbytery. You did that, didn't you?
Yes.
She also refers to what the parents said to her, and the parents described a marked change in the child. He wouldn't let anyone touch him. He was only 10 or 11 and he used to sit on Dad's knee and so on, and he wouldn't let his father anywhere near him. Did you know, Mr. Ridsdale, that the effect you had on children you offended against was that they wouldn't let anyone touch them and they wouldn't let their fathers touch them?
No, I didn't know then. I didn't know that then. I do now.
You didn't think about the effects on the children, did you?
No, I didn't.
You were only concerned about your own gratification.
That's right.
Now, just turning to page 5 of Sister Kate's interview, she said, and this is at the second answer on page 5, well, after it came out and after people knew, there was just what seems to be now to be, and virtually then, a stream of parents coming and saying this happened. Now, did you know that was happening?
No.
And then on page 6, she talks about a boy whose shorts were ripped when he came back from the presbytery. And the boy told her that he had caught his shorts on something and Father Jerry had sewn them up for him. Do you remember that occasion?
No, I don't.
Now at page 7, Sister Kate says that, and this is the second answer, as soon as I found out, I went straight down to the convent and said to Trish being Sister Patricia Vagg, that this has happened and we have to ring the bishop. And she rang the bishop. And then Hank Nolan came down. And then she says that within a matter of a few days, you were gone. Now, you've said that you don't remember talking to Father Nolan.
Hank Nolan. No, I don't. No.
Do you remember leaving Mortlake Parish abruptly?
I don't know how, what abruptly would be. I remember there was a send-off in the hall when I was leaving.
And who came to the send-off?
Who what? Sorry?
Who came to the send-off?
Oh, there were a lot of people there.
And was it a positive send-off, Mr. Ridsdale?
Oh, as I remember, it was a happy occasion.
Why did you think you were leaving the parish of Mortlake?
Oh, I don't know whether I would have put in for a change or would have been told to move on.
Well, you were told to move on because there were complaints against you from parents, and the bishop said you had to leave Mortlake. You know that, don't you?
Well, no, I don't know that, but that'd be documented somewhere. But I just don't know under what circumstances I was told to leave Mortlake. I mean, I know now what had happened and what likely had happened, that the bishop would have made a move, but I've got no idea at all about the details of whether I would have got a phone call or a letter or been told you've got a certain date to move out or what.
Do you remember Henry Nolan seeing that you had a child living in the presbytery and taking that up with you?
No.
Did anyone take up with you that you had a child living in the presbytery?
No, not that I remember, not that I know of now.
Let me take you to the account that Bishop Mulcairns has given of your time in Mortlake. Tab 83. Mr. Ridsdale, do you have some water there?
Yes, I have. Thank you.
Listeners, I think we might go for another 5 minutes today and then maybe consider adjourning.
Certainly, I might just finish this section. Do you have tab 83?
Yes, I have that.
I've taken you to this before. It's an interview with Bishop Mulcairns. And if you can go to page 2. Down the bottom of that page, he says that it was while you were in Mortlake that complaints were made, and the complaints were of inappropriate behaviour with boys. And Bishop Mulcairns said that there were specific complaints that you were engaging in inappropriate behaviour, as well as there being an approach from Monsignor Fiscalini, from people from Mortlake, complaining about your behaviour. And also there was a doctor in Mortlake who contacted Bishop Mulcairns, and that people were concerned about what was going on. Did you know there was a doctor in Mortlake who was concerned about your behaviour?
No, I knew the doctor at Mortlake.
And he didn't raise with you concerns about your behaviour?
No.
Now, Bishop Mulcairns is recorded as then saying that you were taken out of there and then received counselling. Now, it was the case, wasn't it, that you were removed from Mortlake because you had been offending against children and that offending had become known?
Yes, I agree with that now, but what I was saying before is I don't remember the circumstances of how long, whether I was given a date in which to leave. It seems to me that I would have been given a date to leave the place and not pulled out straight away because there was a parish send-off when I was leaving.
Mr. Ridsdale, stage, Ms. Vanessa's taken you through a period of your life, and it's very clear that you accept that the bishop knew that you were in difficulties with the sexual assault of children. You agree with that?
Yes, Your Honour, yes.
Now, if the bishop knew, did you expect that others in the diocese, so the clergy, would also know?
It makes sense that some would have known because word would have got around, but I don't know who or... See, I don't know whether the bishop would have kept it to himself, whether he would have discussed it with the consultors. I just don't know how they work on that level.
But insofar as the bishop knew because of report from others, were you living with the expectation that a number of people would know of your offending?
A number of parishioners or other priests, Your Honour?
Both.
Well, certainly it's obvious that a number of parishioners knew. It's certainly true that Monsignor Fiscalini and Hank Nolan would have known, but any other priest in the diocese, I'm not sure. I couldn't speak for them or what they would have known or not known.
But were you expecting at the time, given that your behaviour was becoming known across lay and clergy, that word would be spreading about your transgressions?
Well, yeah, that makes sense, Your Honour, but I've got no idea of if or how many other priests would have known or suspected.
Yeah.
It's just something that's not talked about.
Priests, though, at meetings of priests, I assume, talk about other priests, do they?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, we ordinary people would call it gossip. Would priests gossip?
What I'm saying is, excuse me, Your Honour, what I'm saying is nothing, if they did, nothing got back to me. I wasn't aware of it. And of course, if they talked among themselves about me, they're not likely to tell me about it.
But given your experience in exchanges at clergy conferences, would you have expected they were talking about you?
Yes, I suppose some of them would have.
Now, since it's all come out and you've...
Well, see, no, again, let me interrupt you, please.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what... See, Hank Nolan and Monsignor Fiscalini, I'm not sure how they would have treated it, whether they would have treated it as confidential stuff that they had to hang on to, or whether they would have talked to others about it.
Well,
Now, some parishioners might have talked to other priests and that's how they might have found out about it. I'm just saying that I'm in the dark about who or what would have known.
Well, I was wondering when it all came out and you were charged and prosecuted, did you find out then that other priests had known what you'd been doing?
No one gave any indication at all that they knew what had been going on.
Ms. Vanessa, is that appropriate for you?
It is, Your Honour.
Yes, what we'll do, Mr. Ridsdale, is we'll adjourn now. It's been a long day. And we'll
Yes.
resume again at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Right, Your Honour, thank you.
We'll adjourn.